Thank you, Janice. And yeah, I'm going to just keep repeating thank you all for coming here. We're so excited to be with you and to be with in conversation with Beverly Jenkins.
Well, thank you for having me.
So how were you introduced to the romance genre?
Through my library. My library, Mark Twain Library on the corner of Gratiot and Burns on the east side of Detroit. I was one of those kids that read everything in the library. And I mean everything. And after I read all the kiddie books and all of the teen books, then I went to the adult books, and in those books, I found Mary Stuart, and Elizabeth Hodge, and Georgette Heyer, and Phyllis Whitney. All of those people who write romance, but that wasn't the only thing I read. I mean, that was just part of the stuff that I read, because I read a lot of Zane Grey, I read a lot of, whatever was on the shelves I was reading. So, and romance happened to be a part of that. Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm sure a lot of us have very similar experiences of pulling things off of our moms' or grandmother's shelves or the library shelves. Mm-hmm. So what was your journey from a reader to a writer and starting your writing career?
I didn't plan on being a writer. All I ever wanted to do was work in a library. Duh. So I was at Michigan State University, early 70s. I worked at the university library, and as a student worker. And then they opened up a job in circulation, because I worked, for the circ desk. I was my junior year, and I didn't even take my finals.
Oh.
It was the 70s, nobody went to class anyway. But, so I worked at the library as a clerk for years. So, I'm blanking on where this is going. Okay, all right, okay, I know where I am now. This is your job, because when I start to speak, I have to get off on these tangents, and I'm like, where was I? Okay. So I was working in what they called a special library. I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and one of my colleagues had just gotten a sweet romance published. Sweet romance, for those who don't know, is a fade to black, no love scenes on the page. It's like Barbara Cartland and stuff. So I told her about this romance that I was working on just for me, because I'd always loved a good love story. And mass market publishing, this was in the 80s, mass market publishing was basically closed to African American mass market writers. So she asked to see it. I brought it in, and she said, I should really get it published. And I'm like, where?
Right.
So I told people, this is my girlfriend Laverne, I told people Laverne harassed me every day. Find an agent, find a publisher, do something with this. So to shut her up, I did find an agent. I can't tell you how, I don't even remember. And my first book was published in '93, and that's how I got here today. The rest, as they say, is history. I got here today. So,
Congratulations. So not only were you writing a romance, but it was a historical romance.
Yeah. Buffalo soldier and an Oberlin-educated school teacher, which turned out to be Night Song. But when I turned it in, my editor, when they first bought it, she was like, it was full of heat. There was no plot. It was just, heat. And she said, Beverly, We love your writing, we love the love scenes, but we need a story. And I was like, really? You need a story? Because, you know, some people think that's what romance is. That romance is all about the love scenes. And it isn't. You need a good story. You need connections between characters. You need to be able to write, first of all. And as an aside, romance sells more books than any other genre on the planet. We keep the lights on for publishing. So for those who don't know that, you can laugh at our books if you want, but you know, we paying the freight for all the lit fic that doesn't sell, you know. So anyway, where was I? Oh. So anyway, so she said I had to write a story, right? So my mom was black before it was fashionable. I grew up with African American history in my home. And for me, if I had to write a story, it didn't make much sense to put these African American leading characters against a majority white background when I knew how rich and deep our history was, African American history was. So I used the Exodus of 1879, which was the first mass exodus of black people out of the South. And this is not to be confused with the Great Migration of 1900. Because those people went to Chicago and they went to Detroit and places like that. Well, these folks went west. And they founded these little bitty towns on the plains of Kansas and in Nebraska and Iowa, Deerfield, Colorado, somewhere as far west as California. So, and a lot of people who teach American history don't know about the Exodus of 1879. But then that's a whole nother story. So I used the history that my mom had taught me. Michigan State University at that time had a full set of the Journal of Negro History, and I would take them out on my lunch hour, because we have a river that runs through campus. We're playing today too. I need to watch that game. State of Michigan is killing brackets all over the place. We kicked out Kentucky. Anyway, okay, that's another story. So they had a full set of the Journal of Negro History, which was started by Carter G. Woodson, who started Black History Day, and then Black History Week, and then Black History Month. And I would take it out on my lunch hour when I was working at State, and just leaf through, you know, looking at different articles and studies and all of that. And who knew that 20 years later, I would be using the same information to back up my stories. Life is so strange. Life is real strange. So I took all of that, since I'm trying to write a story now, since she said, you know, we need, love scenes are fine, but we need a story. So I used that as the background for my first book. And they kept sending me contracts after that, and I kept writing books, and they kept sending me more contracts. And I kept using more of the unknown African American history to entertain and to teach. I call it edutainment, education and entertainment. And then there's, you know, it's a great way to teach history. And then there's no test on Friday, so you know, you can enjoy yourself while learning it. Okay.
So what's the? I mean, you had already done a lot of history 20 years ago with that reading, but what do you do to bolster that when you're coming up with a new historical fiction novel? Your research process.
Oh, well, you know, worked at the research library, so I know how to find stuff. And that's the easiest part. And also, you know, back in I was in school in the 70s, a lot of this history that had been buried, or, you know, I call American history as a quilt. A lot of that history that had been snatched out and cut out or disappeared for a lot of communities of color, a lot of that started to rise again. So when I started writing, I knew where to look. I knew to look for historians who told history through their own gaze. So if you want to learn the Native American history, you look for historians who are Native, because they're going to tell you stories that, you know, I've learned some things hanging out with them on Twitter. You know,
I'm sure.
the lady warrior who clubbed Custer. You know, she was an Arapaho war chief. So a lot of that stuff is still hidden, but you use that. You use that to make your stories whole, to teach again, because we're always teaching, regardless of what we're writing. If we're doing historical writing, we're always teaching. Vanessa Riley's doing Black Regency. She's teaching too, especially for those people who said, Bridgerton, there's no black people there. Well, Vanessa said, look at my website. You know? So, yeah. Oh, did I answer that question? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any time period or place that you haven't set a story in yet that you would like to?
When I first started, historicals had to be before 1900. That was how we defined historicals. So now, you know, the younger folks are like, 1950s is a historical. And I'm like, whoa, wait.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I was in school then, you know. But I would like to do the Gentlemen Gangsters of Harlem and the Gentlemen Gangsters of Detroit in the 30s and the 40s. I think that would be a great time period. But I've done 17th, 18th, 19th century. I'm particularly drawn to 19th, though, because it's such a bittersweet and also triumphant time for people of color, not to mention just black folks. So, yeah.
Was it difficult to convince your editors and that like these were stories people wanted to read?
I never got any pushback. I did get enough rejections to probably paper this room when we started selling it, because it was a 19th century story and it didn't involve slavery. And most publishers were like, oh, what are we supposed to do with this?
Right.
But I was blessed enough to be in the right place at the right time with the right talent, to have an editor who embraced my writing. So I'll always be grateful to Ellen Edwards. She was the one that told me, you got to write a story. But she was very, very instrumental in bringing me on board, getting me published in the summer of 1994, which I was published along with, I was at Avon, but Kensington Publishers, which is a different publisher, also did their first line of contemporary black romance. Brenda Jackson and Betty Ford and Donna Hill and Shirley Hillstock and all those great ladies. So we called it the Summer of Black Love. So you had one historical and you had a ton of contemporary coming out. So it worked well, and many of those women are still writing today. So, yeah.
In good company. So you eventually also switched to writing contemporary romance.
Yeah.
With the Blessing series. What appeals to you about both genres?
Well, I do the Blessing series, but I also do contemporary romance, romantic suspense. I like those because I can do car chases and I can blow stuff up and I can shoot people and all of that. And the Blessing series just sort of wrote itself. It's a small town contemporary series. I'm working on book 12 right now. My agent sold the story without telling me.
No.
And it was the right choice, obviously. But she had been on me about writing a small town series, and I was like, I don't want to write a small town series. I was content to continue to write these award-winning African American historical romances, right? And a little bit of suspense on the side. And she called me one day and she said, I sold the series. What series? She said, that small town series I've been trying to get you to write? I was like, yeah. She said, well, the publisher only wants, a small paragraph and here's the money. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm writing a small town romance, a small town series. So in many ways, it's different in the sense that there's no love scenes on page. We have at-risk kids. We have second chance romance with a lot of and everybody's older. So you're looking at romance between 50s and 60 years old and some 40-year-old love. And we also have a hog that weighs 600 pounds that killed a person and that wears clothes. So it's different.
Yeah.
It's definitely different, yeah.
But hopefully both are enjoyable to write.
Yeah, it's enjoyable and I'm enjoying it, but it gives me a chance to clean my palette, my writing palette. So because and I'm blessed to have a publisher that didn't put me in a box. Because sometimes when you write and you're successful, your publisher wants you to continue to write that flavor for the rest of your life. And that can get boring. So I'm blessed to have had great editors over the years. This is my 30th year of publishing.
Yeah.
30 years, who'd have thunk, right? This is my 30th year. But, I've been blessed to have a publisher who said, well, how about this? And how about that? And how about this? And how about that? So they have not tried to box me in and just have me write one thing, which has been great, So, yeah.
So as an author of Black romance and Black happily ever afters, I'm curious, what does a Black joy mean to you?
Black joy is history. Black joy is amazing. Black joy is triumph after pain. Black joy is what I write, or at least what I try to write. Because, some people don't think that Black people love. They don't think we love our children. They don't think we love each other. They think all the men are deadbeat dads and abusers, and no. So you can always, I think, and that's one of the joys, of Black joy of writing Black romance, because it's one of the few places where you see positive Black men in literature. I mean, all the time. All the time. So Black joy is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of tangibles. It's a lot of intangibles. It's just like love. Love is, and it's hard work.
Right.
I lost my husband in '03, and loved him, crazy. But there were days I wanted to bury his ass in the backyard. And there were days he wanted to bury my ass in the backyard. You know, love is hard work. But then y'all know that. You know, so love is love. Love is love.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I enjoy your book so much is that the journey isn't easy for people to find love.
No.
But they put the work in and they make it happen.
Yeah.
It comes down to a lot of, your characters, like your female characters are very strong, confident women, trying to, do things independently. And I'm wondering if that was a conscious choice of yours? Or?
Yeah. Sometimes, the man is just the whipped cream on top of the sundae. They're not actively looking for no man. Yeah, some of them just stumble over him, after they shot him. My women, there's a book that I use as basically my Bible. And everybody in here should have a copy on their shelf. It's called We Are Your Sisters, Black Women of the 19th Century. And it's edited by Dorothy Sterling. And what Miss Sterling says is that the reason that black women were basically not very successful, but successful in the 19th century after the Civil War was because they worked, whether they were enslaved or free. They were active in social activism and their commitment to community. And the third gift was that they pushed the envelope on gender and race. And if you look at my women in my books, they either embody all three of those, or maybe one, or just two. And it's weird because it's not something that I chose. They come to me. I'm a pantser, which means I write by the seat of my pants. I'm not a plotter. They come to me with this gift already. And it's just, am I intuitive enough and quiet enough in my mind to put them on the page the way they would prefer to be portrayed. So yeah, there are two or maybe three kinds of writers. There's plotters who they know exactly what they want to write, from the first page to the D in the end on the last page. And then there are people like me who are pantsers. We call it writing by the seat of our pants because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we open the book like you do. You don't know what you're getting ready to read, right? And I love it because for me, if I had to outline everything, I would lose the energy for the story. So I pants it, and it's a very organic, and I may have a kernel of a story, I may have a kernel of a character. I may know what the end is, but don't know what the beginning is. It's like walking across the Grand Canyon on a tightrope with no net. And some writers who are plotters are absolutely terrified of doing it that way. And that's okay because we all write differently. And if you're a plotter, then you're a plotter. And if you're a pantser, you're a pantser. And I was here in Boston for my birthday, February 15th. And I was on a panel with Allie Hazelwood. And this was a term I had not heard before. The young girls keep coming up with all this stuff. And so Allie was saying that she was a panty liner. And I was like, what? So it's a pantser who sort of outlines, but sort of doesn't. And she got the term from Adriana Herrera, who is one of our great Dominican. She's Dominican, one of the great Dominican romance writers. So romance is a moving and changing thing, but panty liner, I fell out when I heard that. So those three gifts, working, commitment to community and activism, and pushing the envelope on gender and race, you will find in my ladies and my books. Because we're still doing that today.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, we always have to acknowledge the people whose shoulders we stand upon. And yeah, okay.
Thank you. I love that there's so much feedback from the audience as we're talking.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
my people be saying, yeah, amen.
But that feeds really into my next question, which is, how does your relationship with your fans influence your work?
Oh, gosh. You know, I tell them often that when I count my blessings, I count y'all twice. Because I wouldn't be here without them. You know, regardless of who they are. I wouldn't be here. Y'all help me pay for my mortgage. Y'all help me put my kids through school. Y'all buy my cigarettes every day. You know, and for that I'm very, very thankful. I have 4 Facebook pages. I have a main page. The fans have a fans of Beverly Jenkins page. I have a spoiler page. And I have the spoiler page because if the book drops at midnight, somebody at 6 in the morning the next day gonna want to talk about the book. And I can't have them spoiling it for everybody else. So I just put them in a room by themselves. And they can talk. And then I have what they call the brand page. And the brand page is where the readers and I have book club once a month. We discuss my books once a month. So I'm all over that. I'm all over Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I got 32,000 followers on, which is a small number when compared to some of the big people. But it's, you know, it's a good size number for me. I'm okay with that. But the readers mean so much. When we first started out gathering, we were on Yahoo. It was a Yahoo group. And when my husband was making his transition, because I lost him in 2003, he was diagnosed in August and he was gone in Thanksgiving. So it was rough. But I knew that every night, no matter how hard the day had been, I could go on that website, and those women were there for me to keep me grounded, to let me cry, to let me vent, to do whatever I needed to do to get to that next day. So they have gone from being just random fans to many of them are sisters of my heart, you know. So we travel together. I have pajama parties for them every 2 years. They mean a lot. They mean a lot.
Sorry, I'm getting teary too.
I know.
You all gotta take a deep breath.
That's one of my powers, is to make people cry. One of my superpowers. Go ahead.
Well, on a lighter note, has there been a favorite book of yours to write? Have you finished, your seat of the pants and been like, wow, that was more fun?
Favorite,
more
I think the favorite is the one that you just finished. You can't. I do like the very first book, Night Song, because that was the first. I do like Edge of Midnight because that's the first suspense. I got to, blow shit up and stuff. I like the first Blessings book because it's the first Blessings book. So I'm just real proud to still be here after 30 years and try not to write the same book twice. That, I think, is what I'm most proud of. That in the history, and not writing the same book twice.
Yeah. So in preparing for talking to you, I looked at some interviews, and you say that or you mentioned that you're a big fan of science fiction, and I'm wondering if there's like a connection between your love of Black history and your interest in reading about the future and Black futurism, perhaps.
I don't know, but I'm not going to say no. I mean, there could be. I got a dragon book in me that I've been pitching, so
nice.
because there's not enough Black women riding dragons. I'm sorry.
True.
And Toni Morrison said, if there's a book out there that you want to write and it's not available, then you need to write it. So dragons coming at y'all. I don't know. I mean, I love the rise of Afrofuturism because it was one of the genres that we were kept out of. And these young people are writing just amazing stuff. And these young women, and I told them, I said, y'all got to stop writing all these good books. Because y'all about to put me in the poorhouse. Because I'm buying all this stuff, right? But I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for our children, children of color, to be able to see their imaginings come to life. Whereas before it was all very, very, through one gaze. And now you got, superheroes, and you got scientists, and you got dragons, and you got, and people taking folk tales and turning those into stories. It's a good time to be a creative in some ways. And in some ways it's not because of the rise of AI and all of that. Lord, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, Afrofuturism is the future.
Sure. Well, I'm sure there are some people in here, and myself included, who are interested in entering the literary world. And I'm wondering if you have any advice, maybe specifically for BIPOC women who are interested.
Well, right from the heart. Don't try and copy somebody else. I mean, if you want to write romance, read it. Don't just assume you know what it is. Same thing with mysteries or whatever genre you want to be in, you can be in these days. There are BIPOC mystery writers. There are BIPOC science fiction writers. There are BIPOC cozy mysteries. I mean, all of the different genres are open to just about everybody now. And it doesn't matter your gender either, which I think romance sort of leads the pack in trying to make the genre reflect the world. Love is love. No matter what your gender is, no matter who you are, no matter if you don't even love, we got a romance for you. So, and then my next advice would be to learn as much as you can about the business of writing, because there's a whole industry out there that is looking to steal your dreams.
Sorry, that got deep.
Well, it's true. It's true. You should not be paying anybody to publish you. Take that money, invest in yourself, and learn how to self-publish. And there's tons of stuff online that'll teach you how to do it. Don't, you read these tales of people spending $40,000. So what are you doing? So learn as much as you can about the business of writing. Jane Friedman is a very good source online. She was a big powerhouse in New York for many, many years. And now she's sitting in the background trying to help folks get published. She's got webinars, she's got books, she's got free advice. So don't let somebody tell you that if you give them $15,000, they can put you on the bestsellers list. Ain't gonna happen. They're gonna get rich, you're gonna be crying. Okay. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I am going to stop talking for a little bit, and we're going to reach out to the audience. So we have a bunch of people virtually and in person, so we're going to kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, because I'm leaving here at 3:30.
Yeah.
Because I got a plane to catch to take my ass home.
So we'll do the woman in the paisley, pink and blue.
Yes.
And we have microphones coming around.
2 questions. How many drafts do you usually go through? And are your family, friends, and community members safe around you? Have you ever used dialogue, words, or plot points that have actually happened either in your family or in your community?
I try and not use family members. What was your first question?
How many drafts do you usually?
Oh, how many drafts? I draft as I write. I edit as I write. So by the time I'm done, it's pretty well okay. And I turn it into my editor, and then she sends me a edit letter, a revision letter is what it's basically called, to give me what she thinks of the high points, things that maybe I need to look at, things I maybe need to let go. We get very little of that. She's a great editor. So, well, she's no longer with me now. She's with somebody else. Anyway, I had her for 20 years. So, my process is to edit as I go. And that's another thing for aspiring writers. Do not send your first draft to anyone. They're supposed to be crap. No editor or agent is going to buy crap. So use that first one. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about the sentence structure. Don't worry about plot holes. All you want to do is finish it. And after you finish it, then you go back and start writing it, okay? So, and please don't send that to anybody. You'll never get published with that. Okay. The lady behind you?
Yep.
And then you're next. Okay. Oh, sorry, you're supposed to be in charge.
Hi, Ms. Jenkins. I actually have 2 questions as well. The first question, what are your thoughts on Goodreads and Book Talk being a tool for reviewing books? And do you also have ARCs on NetGalley?
Okay, I don't do Goodreads because reviews are for readers. Reviews are not for authors, and that's how they get in trouble. Stay off Goodreads if you're an author. It's not your place. It's not for you. She's back there with her mouth open. Reviews are for readers. They're not for, once you let that book go out in the public, you don't own it anymore. It belongs out, it's on the marketplace. It's like being a green pepper at Meijer, which is my grocery store. People can pick. Oh, I want this green pepper. That green pepper's going to stay there. That green pepper can't be mad because it didn't get picked. I don't know, stupid illusion, I guess. And what was your second part?
Oh, yes. Do you do ARCs on NetGalley?
I think my publisher does.
Oh, perfect.
I think so. But I know Goodreads is very toxic. Very toxic. You had the author at the beginning of the year
Right, yeah.
who had created these sock puppets, and she was trashing other writers' books, and then pushing her own up, and they hadn't even been published yet. So yeah, I advise authors to stay off of Goodreads. And I don't know about the Book Talk kids. They're very cringy. In the sense that they don't like the clinch covers. They're like, no, they want the little stick figure covers. I hate those things. But, I'm a dinosaur. I'm dying out, I guess. So. But, yeah. Now, the lady right here, yes.
Hi, Miss Beverly.
Hey,
So
babe.
good to see you. My name is Rebecca. I actually learned about your books on Book Talk last year.
Okay, thank you.
Big fan of the cover. Love a cover like this. Love to see it.
I love to do.
And so one thing that's super popular on Black Book Talk especially is like fan casting things
Right.
with big Black actors, period. So my question to you is, if you could see any of your books turned into a movie, which would it be and which Black actors would you cast in it?
Well, I'm greedy. I want to see everything on screen. Everything. And I have no idea. I mean, the people that I wrote it for are my age now, and they're not gonna, and some of them are dead, So I'm gonna leave the fan casting up to you guys. But on the cover of Rebel that you have,
Yes.
he's on. That's Travis Cure.
Okay.
He's in my movie Deadly Sexy. He's also on one Tyler Perry show, The Oval or something.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody tell me, I got the wrong people here. But it's okay. But yeah, so he would be in something, because we've already used him in one of our movies. Okay. And still, you can get it on Amazon. Okay. Keep me posted on Book Talk, and when you need stuff, hit me up on Twitter, okay? All right.
So I think we're going to go to the virtual audience for a question or two.
Yep, I'm just going to scoot in with 2 questions and then we can go up there.
that.
Okay, the first question is, having written so many books, amazing books, how do you keep from repeating characters' personalities, habits, and traits? Because you did say you don't write the same book twice, so how do you keep it all straight?
Well, I mess up with names. That I do mess up. But basically you're playing God, when you're creating characters. And God didn't create everybody the same. So when my characters tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, can you write my book? They bring their uniqueness to the table, which is why it's so great for me as a pantser to write, because a lot of times I don't have to give them a personality. They arrive with their own. And it's just, am I smart enough and intuitive enough to figure it out?
Are you ever surprised
Being a
where
writer's
you're
weird.
Are you ever surprised where all of a sudden your characters have taken you? Where you're like,
Oh,
where
yes.
are you going?
Yes. In Always and Forever, and I've told this story before, it's one of my westerns. He goes back, to clear his name, winds up getting beaten up by the same bad guys, dragging him behind wagons and stuff, near death. We're in Texas. The family says we're taking him into the swamp. And I'm writing, and I'm like, what swamp? Texas has swamps. I had to get the atlas out. Because there are swamps in Texas on the border with Louisiana. I didn't know that. So a lot of times, the characters know more about the story than I do. So that's how I wound up in some place where I didn't know I was going to be, because I didn't know Texas and Louisiana shared swamps. And I'm sure there's probably somebody in here that didn't know that. Yeah.
And we have one more before we'll head back to the physical audience. Well, one person does say, thank you so much for all that you write. They keep returning to your books again and again. And their question is, what do you feel is the most important lessons that we can take from the post-Reconstruction era that you write about so vividly, and maybe how we apply it to today's climate?
How fragile freedom is and how fragile democracy is. I think we're doing the same thing we did in 1876. And if we had, as a country, listened to those black people who said, live up to the promise of the Constitution back then, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess right now. because the people that killed democracy back then, who the 14th Amendment was written for after, were giving the country back. I mean, they were giving back their land, they were giving back their rights, they were giving back everything that they initially took from them. I mean, if Lincoln hadn't been assassinated, even though he was not as pro-black as people would like for him to, for us to think. But yeah, Vice President Johnson entered the chat and said, okay, you want to get your stuff back, just send me a note. And they had these oaths that people were taking. And no matter which side of the political fence you're on, democracy matters. The right to vote matters. And if we lose the right to, if this is going to be the last free election that we have, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So don't let me get started on that. That's a whole different, different thing there.
That's one for you.
I'm going to say about 2 more questions. I know you're like, Karen, that's the worst, but she does have a plane, and I want to make sure that everyone can get their book signed and get a chance to purchase a book from Fruit.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Because I'm leaving here at 3:30.
I'll be quick. But I just want to say to the audience, when she says she loves her fans, she does, because I won't even expect you to remember me, but
I
had
remember
sent
your
you
face.
Okay, I had sent you a message. I was coming to Detroit, and I was like, could we meet? And she was like, sure, and I was shocked. So when I say, yeah, I brought my whole family. This is my great niece. This is my coworker.
Oh, I remember.
There's my
We had
daughter.
lunch. We had lunch. Yes, I remember that.
And you're amazing. I love you, and I love what you did with the historical novels. I always tell you on your Facebook page, you saved my life, because that period, no one really, took the time to invest in it. And so now, look at my daughter. She's educated, my great niece, and I just think you're amazing. And Indigo is everything. And I hope Shonda Rhimes does your books.
Well, let her know.
I was fortunate enough to be in Detroit with my aunt. I told you, I've read everything you've written, even the mini stories.
Yeah.
Literally. So I love you, and I really appreciate how you link your characters, how descendants will be in certain books, and even the matriarch and the blessing, she's linked to the Julys. So just how you do that is incredible. My question is, where do you write physically? Like, do you write at home? Do you, what is your process, and where do you go? Yeah, like, how does that look? How does your day look? Do you wake up, drink your coffee?
I wake up to coffee and cools, and and then I say good morning to my folks on Facebook every morning. I started out in my office, but those of you who know me know that I ain't been in my office in 10 years because it's a mess. So then I moved my writing to the bedroom, and then I trashed that. And then I was in the kitchen, and I trashed that. Those spaces are now clean. So now I'm in the living room. And I'm trying not to trash that, because I just painted it, and I just put up new art, and I just bought new furniture. But I write usually at night. And that's because when I started my career, I had a job, I had a husband, I had 2 kids, I had a brownie troupe, I had hats that I wore in the community. So all of that, and the only time I could write was at night. So I still write at night, even though I'm the only person in the house now. And I still can't get books in on time. But it's a blessed life. It really, really is. This is going to be the 2nd year I'm going to miss Palm Sunday. I was a minister for a while, lay minister. Quick story.
Please share.
I'm at a signing. This older black woman, she comes up to me and she says, she looks at my book, This is when I was writing just historicals. And she looked at my book and she said, "Oh, honey, I can't buy your book." I said, "Why not, ma'am?" She said, "My son is a minister." And I said, "Well, I'm a minister." And she looked at me, she said, "In a church?" She didn't buy the book. This gentleman in the back had a question.
This will be our last question.
Yeah, this will be the last
Actually,
one.
I have the mic right here. I can
Okay.
pop.
Hi. First, sorry for being late. So I'm probably going to ask a question that may have already been asked. First off, my name's Stan Jenkins, Boston resident. I wanted to know, it's kind of a two-part question. Basically, how you were inspired initially in the beginning when you first chose to become an author, and now in today's time and the climate, how do you continue to be inspired to write, and what obstacles do you have today?
I'm inspired by the history, by our history, and that history keeps me inspired. Because when they're talking about not teaching black history in schools, okay, I'm putting them in my little romance novels. You know, and even though they're sometimes, you know, they're banning romance also. But once my readers know that history, they can't take that from them. They can take it physically, but they can't take it out their brain. Nor can they keep them from passing that history down to their children and their grandchildren. So I got it. It's a win-win for me. They can do what they want. Okay? Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank y'all so much.